Welcome to my project. I'm Zachary Smith. For my topic, I chose clustering analysis techniques via SAS. Um, Throughout the semester, we learned various statistical techniques. One of the final topics we covered in class was clustering via k-means in SAS. And this differed from Gretel in that we fed in certain variables and chose the minimum and maximum amount of data that would be returned, and optimally clusters would return different means and other statistics for analysis. And this was really helpful, especially when doing the marketing segmentation exercise, because I started with a lot of different variables on consumer habits. Um, but with clustering, it allowed me to pare down and further analyze and understand the differences between those variables. So I'm going to get into talking about those clustering techniques. Um, it's very on brand. I chose honey and bees as my theme. So let's get into it. So as I discussed, there's several ways of doing clustering as a computational technique. There's k-means, there's gap analysis, and then also means clustering. Um, just like with honey, it comes in different sizes. This was my k-means SAS code. Um, if you look here, I had buying habit and environmentally minded as my first and second factor, and I saved that into the cluster ready data set. Um, I chose maximum clusters as 4 with my different variables here. And I chose during one of my exercises, I used CC. C is to choose the optimal clusters. Instead of just looking at the output, I use this graph. And as you see, the first local maxima is 187.648. So you would choose as the optimal amount of clusters. And I confirm that essentially by then running up to 9 clusters and then looking at the discrimination between the variables. And these are the 6 variables I chose for this project. And as you can see, there's no negative values. All the values are highly differentiated, which is good. And there's really not a other set of clusters that I would choose in this data set. So I chose 4. And that's confirmed again by CCC. Gap analysis was the next method used with first peak and global analysis. And then I came up with my final clustering outcome from that. This code with first peak with gap analysis is a little bit more complicated. You're using HP class, and you're choosing a PCA criterion first peak, and you essentially get ABC statistics, and it shows 3. It automatically chooses 3 clusters for you. So I chose 3 here. Next, the next statement or the next set of code was global peak analysis. It's similar, but also different. Essentially, it gave back it gave back the same results. We used a different criterion method, and it gave 3. Ultimately, I'm going to go with using gap analysis because 3 clusters was chosen with gap analysis. which results it's automatically again it's not automatically choosing, so this is the better result. So based on gap analysis, I found that there's grade discrimination between variables. Also, there's non-identical results, which is optimal. That's my presentation. I hope I was able to deep dive into various clustering techniques with k-means and then gap analysis. So thank you for joining. And the reason why I chose gap analysis is because I find it very interesting that you're using a criterion, a logarithm to choose the clusters. Um, and a lot of our techniques in the semester, um, we were choosing the parameters like for forecasting and certain thresholds, but in this case, SAS is doing the work, and you're working backwards because then you get the solution, and then you're having to choose which cluster you want based on means or just whatever gap analysis picked. Overall, I think gap analysis, when you're given several solutions, like with k-means, I would go with gap analysis overall. I think it's the most accurate. I think that it has the most optimal results. It also makes it easier to compare, um, because you're given the ABC statistics, and you can run it a second time after doing like first peak. You can do global peak, and you have a comparison between two outputs, which are very similar. In my case, it was identical, so that's why I chose 3 clusters. But thank you for joining.